Okay, I think we are live again. Let me just verify real quick. Yep. All right. Oops. Okay, so I did a little bit of extra work, not too much, since we last left off. You'll notice that the inputs the input components are a little bit different looking. I went through, kind of copied through my typical input edge component. So it uses Alpine to kind of track the internal value and to be able to set max and min lengths for those values. So that's the main thing. This will be up on GitHub within the new JagerCo repository if you want to take a look at it. But it also sets, if the type is password, it's going to allow you to toggle on and off the password settings. So like, for example, if I have testing here, we can toggle it on and off. Things like that. So I believe that's the gist of what I've changed so far. I also set up the theme that I want to test out, at least starting out, for the code base. So that's just all Tailwind changes. So I just set brands and some default typography settings and things like that. But to start this video out, I actually want to start with a comment that I got on the last stream, which Denang commented on the AdonisJS framework. Can we use just the username / password instead of using email password to log in? Yeah, absolutely. This is actually something that I don't have written up for the previous Jaeger site, which there's no excuse for it because it's actually really, really easy to add in. So let's go ahead and add that into the new code base. So first and foremost, we just want to go into config, and then within the auth config, there is this UIDs array, which defaults to email. So this is what allows us to log in with the email. So whenever within our auth controller, whenever we try to authenticate, it's going to use that UID array to check what the UID value is that we pass into the attempt call. So if we want to add just the username, so users can just log in with the username, then we would just replace email with username here. But in my case, I'd like it to be username or email, so I can just add username and email to this UIDs array. And now if we come back to the login, and last lesson we created test user 1 and test user 2. So YouTube's telling me I'm streaming in 4K, which is not optimal, but that seems to be going okay. Okay, well, we'll try it out. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so test user 1. So we'll just leave that as that. Actually, this input is an email, so it will block. So let's go to the sign in here and change the input type from email to text, and then we'll do username / email for the label there, and I'll still grab it, the value on the back end as email, so I'll just leave that as that. So now we have username or email. Enter username or email. So now we can do test user 1 instead of testuser1@gmail.com, and we should be able to log in now with just the email, just like that. And we can confirm that using the email still works. So we can do testuser1@gmail.com. And there we go. So we have that working a-okay. So that's really all that you need to do. Config, auth, add in whatever UID you want the user to be able to log in with. Now, of course, you want to make sure that that's going to be a unique value on your database. So that, it's unique per user, so that a user can't log into another account or get accounts mix match and stuff like that. So that's one thing to consider there. But let me go ahead and log back in here. Okay, and since we have the basic authentication working now, let's go ahead and start with getting basic posts working. So believe we set all of that stuff up in the last lesson or last stream. Yep. Cool. So really all that we need to do is set up the environment to be able to handle that. So what I like to do is place everything admin based for stuff like this within a particular namespace. And so that could either be admin, or if it's going to be more than just admins, you can name it something like studio or panel or something like that. I tend to go for studio. So I'm going to, let's see, all right, over here on the right, make a new controller. So node ace make controller. And then if I remember correctly, you can just prefix your controller name with whatever namespace you want to place it in. So studio, and that would be like post controller. So now this, yep. So there it created it within app controllers, HTTP studio post controllers. So now we have this nice new studio controller or studio folder with a post controller within it. And so now let's do public async index. And we will just return back. Let's see, we're going to want a view for this. So we'll do view, comment out the HTTP context contract. There we go. And for right now, let's just return view.render. And then I'm going to namespace this within the view as well. So this will be views studio posts index. So views, or no, sorry, that's not needed. Studio posts index, and for right now we'll just pass it an empty state. So we'll define a route for that, and we'll namespace everything within the route as well. So we'll do route dot group dot namespace is studio. Sorry, use the whole path. App controllers HTTP studio. Alternatively, I could have namespaced it like this, to where it's app studio controllers, but I kind of prefer this approach. So that's a personal preference. And then I'm going to go ahead and prefix everything within this with studio as well, is studio, and prefix the name as well. So we'll do route dot, and then I'm going to do another group specific to posts. So dot prefix posts as posts, and then we'll do route dot get, and we'll leave that blank. Well, all right, up here I was doing slashes. On my other project, I'm excluding the slashes, but I'll stick with slashes on this one. It is a little bit easier to read. And since we have the namespace set, we should be able to reference everything just the same as though it wasn't in a namespace, since the namespace is set on this group. So this would be posts controller.index as index. So last thing to do is to actually set up that view. So we will do a new file within views. This will be studio posts index.edge. All right, and let's do layout. We will create a new layout for this called studio.edge, but for right now, let's just do main, layout slash main, there we go. Section, content, and let's just plop in each one in there of working. So let's go ahead and test that out. So now we should be able to go to studio posts, and there we get working. So that's working all right. So next thing to do is to be able to create a post. So in order to be able to show our posts within our index view, we need to actually have some posts. So let's go ahead and cover the creation. So async create, we'll want view for that one as well, since this will be rendering the creation form So there we can do render out studio post create. Sounds good. And then we'll leave that as an empty state for now as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste my index and rename it to create. And then while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste my main.edge and rename that to studio.edge too before we get too many files using the main layout. So we'll paste that in there, rename, and instead of main, we'll name that studio. Currently, there's going to be no difference. Here, I'll go ahead and rename the title just so I know where I'm at and that I'm actually using the studio one. Currently, there will be no difference, but there will be a difference later on. So I'm going to go ahead and make that file now before we get too many things relying on layouts main within our studio. So there we go. So there should be absolutely no change to this page. All right, cool. And for our create page, we should, no, I didn't make the route for it yet, so it shouldn't work. So let's go ahead and make the route for it. Route.get create post controller.create as create. Sounds good. And you'll notice I'm not using a resource. I tend to prefer to manually define all of my routes. Again, that's a personal preference. I could absolutely just do route.resource for posts here, and it would work just fine. Just a personal preference of mine to manually define everything. And let's see. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and verify that that is working just before we start doing anything. And all right, make sure that it is actually the create page by changing that to, yep, okay, cool. So now we need to actually start on our form. We're going to keep this pretty basic to start with. Let's see what all we have that is not nullable within our database first. So I'm going to just open up the schema structure within my database if I can find it. So posts, and then change it over to structure. So title slug, not nullable, and state is not nullable. Everything else is nullable. So to start with, I'm going to take care of everything that is not nullable. So in this case, slug, we're going to have as something that you can manually define, but it should automatically set if it's left empty. Title is absolutely required, and state we will set as a default if it's not provided. So we'll take care of all of the default states first, and then we will take care of being able to manually provide a value for those. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and just get our, well, let's go ahead and plop an H1 of something up here just so that we can confirm that that's the page that we are on. And then we will have form method post action equals, and we will do route studio dot posts dot, this will be store. We haven't created it yet. Actually, we need to create it since we are referencing its path. So we'll go ahead and end our form here and go ahead and create that, because since this route currently doesn't exist, but we're trying to grab it, we should be getting an error. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and create that so that we are not getting that error there. We won't do anything with it yet, but it will exist. So public async, not post, store. And again, I could have created this as a resource controller. I probably should have, but I didn't. Here, I can probably go ahead and just grab one of these. There we go. Okay. So for this one, we will want the request, and for right now, we'll just leave it as that, actually. And let's just go ahead and define the route for it. So this will be route.post, and everything there looks right, so we'll stick with that. Okay. So now if we go back to our page, since we got an error, we need to refresh, but there we go. We refreshed and we no longer have an error, which is what we want. So let's see. Let's go ahead and take care of the title. Whoop, yes, thank you, Copilot. I do need the CSRF field. So we'll go ahead and add that in, CSRF field. And that will add in a hidden input containing the CSRF value. From there, let's go ahead and do a component, components.input. Let's see, label will be title, name will be title, value will just be flash messages.get title in case something errors out. Flash message, the old value will come back within the flash messages, and we can grab it using get title so that the value is exactly as we left it prior to submission. Errors, we can again get off of flash messages, this time at errors.title. What else? Required, true. These are all things that I've set to be applicable on my input component. So these are all things that are used. So like, let's see, we have a placeholder. I could define rows if it's a text area. If it's not, I can define it as a group, which will just place whatever I have in a slot of the component within there. Handles selects, inputs, all that fun stuff. Max length, min length, ARIA attributes. So these are all just things that are applicable to that particular component. And I think that should do it for right now. So we'll just save that. Actually, we need a button. So I'm just going to do button type equals submit. Save post. Good enough for right now. Save that. So now we should have a form with CSRF field is not a function. Do I have CSRF enabled and installed? Shield. Let's see, is it CSP? No. Oh, wait a minute. I think that was wrong. I think it's camel cased. I think that's it. No? Okay. I'm going to go take a look at the documentation real quick. Over here. Yep, that's how I have it. Okay, so something in my project is missing the CSRF portion. So I'm going to make sure that I have Adonis Shield installed and configured. So got Shield config, so it should be, but we'll double check it. Let's see, nope, not kernel. Where does that go? Adonis RC. There's the Shield provider. Okay. Let's see if maybe CSRF token works. Oh, I meant to copy that whole thing. Let's just hit the copy button. All right, go back to here, place that in there. Let's see what we get for that. Ooh, that's an ugly form page. That's all right. We can fix it up here in a second. So yeah, we get undefined. So something with that's definitely missing. Let's see. NodeENV should not be testing. Nope. Let's take a look and see if we're getting the cookie. Nope. All right. Well, for right now, let's go ahead and just remove CSRF and see if it even checks for it. So we'll remove that. And then we will just check on our back end to see whether or not we are getting our title. So we will do const title equals request only title. Nope, not return title. Just console.log it out for right now. Oop, don't have view plucked out of my HTTP context here. View dot render. Let's see. How do I go back? Nope, I'm thinking about this wrong. It's response dot redirect back. That's what it is. Okay. Because for right now, I just want to go back to the form after submission just to see whether or not we are getting the title here, or to see if we're going to run into a CSRF issue. So refresh there, post up testing. Okay, check out the console. And so yeah, so CSRF just isn't enabled or configured correctly. So we'll go ahead and just move forward for right now. I will take a look at that in a little bit. So let's see. So we have our title. Within here, I'm going to go ahead and create a validator. So node ace make validator post store validator. Okay. And within here, within here, let's go ahead and define the title. And I need to import rules. Okay. Rules, max length is, what is my max length? 100. Okay. And then everything else we'll go ahead and define in here as well. So page title, description, meta description, all are going to be pretty similar to this. So page title, description, meta description. The max length on those will vary. So we have 100 for page title and 255 for description and meta description. So 100 remains for page title. I don't have commas, so we get in red squigglies. Let's add those commas in. And then this one goes to 255, and this one goes to 255. And let's copy that once more because I saw canonical as the next one. So there is canonical. And then we have body, which will not have a max length. Video URL, which will have a max length of 255. So body, schema, string, and no rules for that one. And video URL? Yes, video URL. Schema dot, do we have URL? Is that a thing? No, that's a rule. Okay, so string. Yep, rules.max length 255, rules.url. Okay, and then we have is featured in is personal. I'm going to leave off for right now. I'm not currently actually using those. View count is not something that will be set whenever you create. Let's see. I'm going to take the time zone and publish at user and publish at. Get that as well. Actually, I don't remember what I was doing for that, so I'm going to take a look real quick. Okay, so we have time zone is just a string, so schema.string. And then we have publish at, which is a schema.date.optional. Actually, all of these need to be optional. Oh, the afterthought. Okay. And then we have, let's see, publish at user. Oh, that should just be publish at user schema dot, and this one is just a string. Okay. And then I'll tack optional on everything but the title. Okay, there we go. Actually, post type ID needs to come up with this too, although if it's not set, we will have a default ready for it. So that will just be, let's see, we should have an enum that I copy and paste it over. Yeah, post type. So what we can do here is we can do schema.enum object keys of that enum, which should be post type, which will auto import. And then no, not keys, values. There we go. Thought something felt off about that. Okay, so that should be good. So also that needs to be optional. Okay, so now it should be good. So we should be just fine just passing in the title. Everything should validate just fine. I'm not going to actually create this yet. I'm just going to verify validation succeeds. So we will take the request.only off, and instead we will do const data equals await request validate post store validator. And instead of console.logging title, we can go ahead and just console.log data and redirect back. So we'll come back into our form, send off testing again, and validation should succeed. The fact that we got to our console log actually, did we? Yes, we did. Okay, because I was last up there. So yes, we actually have data with a title in it. So the fact that we got to the console log means that the validation succeeded. Otherwise, it would have thrown an error, and we never would have gotten to the console log. So that all should be good. We need to go ahead and take care of the Slug create. Actually, we need to add Slug into the validator because we should be able to manually set it, but if it's not going to be manually set, then we need to set the default. So let's do schema string. Since it has additional hyphens and everything in there, I think the default for that is 150 or 255. Okay. So there we go. And make that optional. Okay. So now if that's not provided, then we want to create it. So let's see. Looking real quick. Looking. There it is. Okay. So let's go into our post model, and we can add a hook onto the before create. And call this create slug. And this will take in an instance of our post. So if the post has a slug, then we just want to return, because we don't need to do anything because we manually defined the slug. Otherwise, I'm going to install a package. Let's see, what package do I use? Slugify. There is also a Adonis package for slugification. I'd recommend using that if you're just getting started. I don't remember my reasoning for using this package, but I'm going to stick with this package. So whatever that guy's username is, /slugify. And let's go ahead and, well, let's see if it'll auto import. No, okay. So import Slugify from, there we go. And go back down so I can see how this package is actually used. And it looks like you just pass in the value to a Slugify method. So we'll do const slug equals, yeah, I don't think that's actually in there. All right. And then const cur, there's only one R in there, and it says, there we go, await. And I'm going to use the database module here. Query from posts where, actually let's do a where raw slug are like, I don't know, this might be, I'm pulling this off of my previous writing of the code base. So this may be specifically for MySQL, but we'll see if it'll work. If I can type it right. 0 through 9. Nope, $. There we go. So do I have that all right? Yes. Okay. And then the question mark will be our slug. Oh, I got something wrong. Oh, I didn't start the string. It would help if I start the string. And then, where did this guy come from? Oh, okay. My bad. That is a member of the actual string. So we need to wrap that in that. There we go. Okay. And then that takes in not just a value, but an array. There we go. All right. I think that's right. And then we set the slug to occurrences.length, whatever the slug is, whatever the occurrences of the slug are, or if there are no occurrences, then we just use the slug. Okay, so very curious to see whether or not that's MySQL specific or if it will work in Postgres. Mainly, I'm not sure about the R-like. I would assume it would be okay, but we'll see. So that should now run whenever this is created. So we should be okay to go ahead and try to create a post record. So we will do const post equals await post dot create our data. And then we will redirect instead of back to route, yep, studio posts index. Actually, we don't need the post to come back, so we'll just do await post.create. Okay. So let's test that out. So we'll come back into our ugly post form, refresh to make sure everything, and yep. All right, what do we got here? Oh no. Did I spell his name wrong? It did install, yeah? Yeah, it installed, okay. Let's see, go back to our post model. All right, let me take another look. Let's see. we have SIN, and I'm covering it up, DRES, Huh. Yeah, you got it right. Okay. Interesting. Did I spell it right here? Yep. All right. Let's try to just copy and paste it. If I can. Here it is. Let's see if it did change at all. Nope, I did have it right. Okay, well then let's take a look at the package. Maybe we will be changing packages for this rewrite. Go ahead and try to reinstall it using a copy and paste version in case I did spell it wrong. Okay. Nope, looks like it was installed. That does appear to be how I'm using it. Well, let's go confirm. Yep. All right. Well, it's on the error is on the import, so it wouldn't be how it's being used. Instead, change the require of index.js. So I wonder. I mean, I am using a newer Node version. I wonder if the way that they're exporting their package here is no longer supported. Okay, well, let me go ahead and, I don't know, try to find a different one. It should work, though. I don't think anything should have broken between this version and that version. Did I save? Maybe I forgot to save. Make sure that we're getting a value to pass in. Well, it's on the import, so yeah, but all right, we'll at least see if we get there for whatever reason. Let's try this again. Oh, right, I just refreshed. So yeah, we didn't even submit. Okay. And it is specifically that package that's causing it, yeah? Yeah, okay. Let's see, maybe I will just use the Adonis version. see, is it Lucid Slugify? I think it is. Okay. And let's uninstall you. Okay. All right. And for the most part, that looks like exactly what I want. So instead of doing this via a before create hook, instead it looks like Adonis will take care of all of that logic for me, which is nice. And let's see, that goes on the slug, not the title, right? Yes, okay. So we'll plop that in there. I'll retype it since it'll need imported. Didn't offer to auto import. Okay. All right, let's test this out. So testing, save post. Oh yeah, all right. So it seems to be working, or at least we're failing out on a different error. So state ID needs a default. So we can either do that in a before create. I don't recall exactly where I was doing it before. Let's see, I think I was just doing that within the data. So instead of doing this, it would be, what is that? State ID equals state dot, nope, not, is it state? Enums, states, is it the state enum that I want here? Nope, it is, oh, I was in status. Yes, it is states, sorry. State dot public, is that the default one that I use? Let's see. That'll do for now. And then we need to spread our data. So now if state ID is within our data, it will get overwritten with whatever that state ID is. And so now we should be good to go ahead and retry this. So since I submitted, I'm going to go back, and refresh to make sure that I got latest. Testing, save it off, and okay, cool. So there we go. It seemed to have saved. We will jump into the database to verify that. Sorry, I had to jump through some hoops there to get it to actually go. And so there our slug is populating. We can go ahead and test it out by trying to create another post with a title of testing to make sure that it's doing what I want. Refresh. Oh yeah, that's exactly how I was trying to write it with the other package. So that's perfect. Cool. All right. So now all that we need to do is kind of fill in the void with all of these other fields. Yeah. So let's see. Let's go back to our post. Nope, that's the model. I want the view. Post create. All right. And let's make this a little nicer on the eyes. So let's do div class flex, negative mx. Yeah, let's do 6. Okay, and oh, nope, don't quite paste yet. Let's also do flex wrap on that. Let's do 2/3. Okay, and now we can paste that in. And then we will do another div. And then we also need a padding on these, so px, let's see, 3. Okay, and let's actually limit that to LG. No, yeah, I need to be in the create. All right, all right. So that does need to be 6. That or I need to change the negative to 3. There we go. All right. And then let's set. Actually, I'm going to set. Yeah, we'll just leave it here for right now. Oh. Okay. Yeah, that works. So I will move this off into, I guess, the studio. Wrap it with the component. Oop. Did I copy the whole class? Yes. Okay. All right. Cool. So that looks good. So we have our title. Let's see. We also need. Hi, Janet. Dog saying hi. You're right in the mic. Let's see. So back to our post create. So we also need, in addition to this, we need to be able to manually set our slug. So we will do slug. And this is not required, so I can just leave that off. And then we also need to be able to do our SEO stuff. So I want to put this in, what is it? Details, I think. And this takes a summary. All right, and we'll put these fields in here. So we'll have 2, 1, well, really that'd be 3, I guess. 1 for page title. Camel case it. Page title. 1 for meta description. And 1 for our canonical. So canonical. There we go. Nope. What? Yeah, no, that's the name. And then actually for the meta description, I want to change this to type text area. Set it as rows of 3. I can't remember what the default I set on that is. So we'll stick with rows 3. And let's see. Canonical. And then we're going to need some kind of a WYSIWYG editor for the body. Normally I use TipTap. Prefer to have more of a all-in-one solution as opposed to rebuilding it, but I might just copy and paste that over. But let's go ahead and save this, check and see what we got so far. So we have our title, our slug, search engine stuff goes inside of there. I'm gonna cut back on this a little bit. So if we go take a look at, because I actually rather like the way that the post creation form is set up currently. So if we go into posts and let's see, I go to edit this one. So I've got it to where everything's just kind of cleanish. And then yeah, everything with the, yeah. So I might stick with this approach. As opposed to, for the most part, we're sticking pretty close to it. It's just the inputs need a different styling. See, I think all of this is using inertia. So this is all in view, but we don't need view for this. So for the rebuild, I'm keeping it nice, simple, and we're going to just sprinkle in view where we need it. Let's see, I actually have Alpine all throughout here, so maybe we can find an Alpine solution. I doubt that there's any Alpine WYSIWYGs out there, though. And TipTap is just in view. All right, well, we'll move forward with just plopping things on here for now. Sorry, I'm rambling. So let's just, outside of the details now, copy the meta description. We'll just plot this in there as the body for right now. Sorry, no, that does need to remain text area. And replace this with a WYSIWYG editor later on. I need to find one that I want to use. Okay, and I believe that's, oh yeah, no, sorry. So we have meta description, but we also need the actual description. So is that description or is that summary? That's description. Okay. So I already have the meta description copied, so I will just paste that in up here. That is also going to be a text area, and just get rid of meta. Okay. There we go. Put some spacing on the details here. There we go. That's a little bit better. And then off to the right-hand side, I'm going to skip over the thumbnail input, but I will go ahead and keep the video URL over there for right now. And then I think I might go ahead and copy this input style for this. So we'll have a secondary input component of some kind to mimic that style. So let's see. Go ahead and copy one of these and paste that over on the right-hand side. So this one will be video URL. And to demonstrate the purpose that I have this flash messages get the name here, since our title is required, if I leave the title off and I just type in some stuff in these other fields, right, and I go ahead and save, what will happen is the validation will fail and it will redirect back with these values that I already have propagated within the flash messages. So all that I'm doing is getting that value out of there and reapplying it to those fields. So if we hit save here, we should come back to the page exactly as it appears right here. And there we go. So that's what that is doing right there. So this little value setting of the flash messages. All right, so it's not pretty, but it should allow us to do everything that we need so far. So we can do this as test post. I should be able to manually define some slug here and not have it be auto set, although I actually, since I'm not the one that's doing the Slug validation anymore, I don't know whether or not that will actually work, but we will test it and see. And then I'm just gonna, yeah, that works for the description body and video URL. Actually, I already have a video open, so why not just go ahead and copy that. There we go. All right, so let's save. That seemed to work. We'll get those listed out here in a second. Refresh this. So awesome. Yeah, so the actual Slug. So it seems like Adonis's Slugify package was doing exactly what I was manually doing, which is super nice. So if the Slug is provided, it remains as you provided it. If it's not provided, then it will auto increment with a hyphen and the version. And then we got, oh, I forgot to expand my SEO to test that, but we got the description, the body, and the video URL set as we set it as well. So we have, although it's not very nice, we have a couple of dummy posts here to go ahead and list out on our index page. So we'll just get that going with a very simplistic table, and then I'll go in later on and style it up a little bit. So within our index, well, first and foremost, we have to query it. Oh, shoot, I have node modules open. Okay, so let's go ahead and query for it. So within our index, const posts equals, we only want the authenticated users post. So we'll get auth user, and I'm going to put an authentication middleware on this here in a second. So auth user related posts, and let's go ahead and paginate it as well. Let's see, what's the first argument there? Is it per page or is it the page? I think it's the page. That is my one gripe about GitHub Copilot, is it kind of breaks the tooltip. Oh, well, I broke it. I didn't do query.paginate, so that is my bad. Yeah, okay, so the first argument is the page. I'll manually pass it in as 1 for right now. And then per page, yeah, 20 is fine. And then we can either get this off of the query string or the params. I'm going to go ahead and do the params. So const page equals params dot page, otherwise 1. And pass that in as page there. And then we will return back to our view the posts. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that optional param onto the route. So here on index, we have the optional param of page. And then I'm going to do where page route matchers and number, so that it validates that it's a number, and will actually cast it to a number for me within my controller. So that should all be good. Let's go ahead and plop it out on our index page just to verify everything. So I'm going to put this inside of a pre. Okay. And then I'm going to do inspect. And Adonis passes everything to edge unserialized whenever we're using it like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do posts dot serialize so that I only print out the actual data that we get. Oh no, my bad. All right, let's try it just as posts first. Oh, I killed it. There we go. All right, yeah, so we're not getting back our posts. So I did something wrong on the back end. Let's go see what I did wrong. Okay, let's try taking the paginate off. It could be how I have the relation set up. Sorry, can't speak. Okay, that seems to be getting it. So let's go ahead and take a look. Instead of getting back, oh, I don't have await. See. And the reason I noticed that is because I'm still having an instance of the connect query object here, not an instance of my posts. So now that we have the await there, if we actually take a look at what we get back. Okay, that's fair. So I have something set up with my relationship wrong. Relation post user does not exist. Is that trying to use that as a table or a column? As a table. So let's go back into our models, take a look at how I'm defining that relationship here. So user to post is a many-to-many relationship via the table author post. So yeah, that's absolutely wrong. I forgot to, okay. So for one, we're calling it author post, or our authors on our post. So we need to set that. So not table name, pivot table is author posts. Yeah, yep. And we need to do that on the inverse side as well. But first, is there any pivot columns? No. Oh, author type ID. I don't remember why I put that in there, but all right, we'll go ahead and type ID. So now we'll copy this and let's define that on the inverse side as well. So over on our post, let's find our authors. There it is. Okay. Now let's give that another go. That's fair. So we created the posts, but we didn't assign the posts any authors. So we also need to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these posts here. Well, and let's leave them here for a second to verify that they don't come through whenever we actually do query for the actual authors. So what we need to do is within our post controller, whenever we create, and I can either do this on create or I can do this just within the creation logic. I think I'll go ahead and do it within on create because we always want it to happen on create. So before create, public static async set initial author, I guess. Set author, and let's just do set author. All right, that will take back the post of type post. Post. No, this needs to happen after, doesn't it? After create, since we already need a post ID to assign to the many-many relationship. And let's see, I'm also going to, so let's not do it as a hook. I also need my authenticated user. I could pass that in, but at that point I would feel better just not having it within there. So let's go back to here on store. Let's do our const post equals await, and then we want to grab our auth from here, and we can do that looks. Is that right? That looks right. No, it's not right. Auth user. I think that needs to be related posts. All right. Attach, and attach takes an array. So now that should be good, I believe. So we need to go back. I'm going to go ahead and just plop a button on here so I don't have to keep manually altering the URL. href route studio posts create. Okay, now we got a button. All right, so let's test this again. Test with author. and go ahead and just type something in there, type something in there, plop something in here, and save. All right, so now we came back to our index page, and now we no longer have an empty array. So we have something coming back, and it looks like it's our test with author. So that is working as we'd like, and we can verify that in the database for sanity's sake. And there we go. So instead of just returning back an array of all posts, let's go ahead and paginate with the page, and we'll manually set the limit to 20. So now this will be slightly different, I believe. Well, once we serialized it would be, but yeah, so paginate still applies the attributes and everything on there, but we can also reference everything via rows. And then somewhere on here we should have, yeah, our pagination data. So there we go. So now we can go back to our index page and get some kind of a table going on here. So let's see. Just do title for right now. That's the wrong syntax, but that's pretty close. I'll stick with it. Okay. For each post in posts, instead of doing $post, we want to do post.title. And we can also do rows there as well if we'd like. So yeah, okay. That way we're using the paginated data. So, nope, what do we got wrong? Reading title. I think this is each, isn't it? Copilot was more wrong than I've let on to believe. Yeah, so there we go. Now we got that working. So we can get rid of our inspect. And I did not end the table. Okay, so there is our junky table telling us that we have a single post to this author. So let's see, what else do we want to be on here? We could do the author, we could do the status, we could do the type, number of views, the publish date. So we actually need to add the publish date into the form as well. So let's see. So go ahead and add this stuff here first. So yeah, we can put the slug underneath the title. So here we can do the title itself as an anchor. And this will go to the edit. So route studio posts. We haven't created it yet, so we're going to get an error here for a little bit, but we'll do edit. And then this takes in as the ID, post.id. And then underneath that, we can do another anchor that actually goes to the actual post itself, which we don't have this route created yet either, so I'm actually just going to leave that as an empty anchor. Because we're not quite ready to get to that yet. And this will be the post.slug that renders out in there. So go ahead, save this. It's going to cause an error because Studio Post Edit doesn't exist yet. But we can go ahead and make it exist. So let's see, we're going to want view and params const post equals awaits. Looks good to me. Return view dot render studio posts edit, And of course I could do this in a single view, so it would be like add or edit. Which actually, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Add or edit. Why make things harder for yourself, right? So should be good to go ahead and save that. Let's define the route. So route.get posts. This will be the ID. Whoops. And edit. Or do we need edit? Is anything else going to live there? And we'll leave edit in there. Okay. And this will be posts controller dot edit as edit. Go ahead and clean this group up here so far. Okay. Yeah, we'll leave it there. All right, and then we need to alter the view name for our create from just create to, really it should be create or edit. Yeah. Yeah, I like that better than add or edit. Fits better with the naming. So let's go with that. And then on all of these, where we have the flash messages.get, we also need to just try to get it off of the post as well. So let's see we get to do a ternary, I guess, since I already have this defaulting back. Let's see, do I need that default? Because then we could just do, does the post internally default to an empty string, or the input internally? Yes, it does. Okay, so we should be able to just do post dot, well, I'm going to actually leave that empty for a second here just to test. So let's go back into here, refresh, we fixed that error. We should be able to go into the edit. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it comes back and we don't get any errors about, well, let's open up the terminal, I guess, to make sure there's no JavaScript errors either. Yeah, cool. So we should be good to go ahead and add in post dot title, otherwise that. Let's test that out. So whenever we're creating, post won't exist. So I'm going to place a question mark here so that we don't get an error whenever we try to reference title. And if post.title does not exist, then it will fall back to trying to get the flash message. I really cannot say that word. And then if our flash messages don't have the title on it, then our input component, misclicked, will check for that, and it will default its internal value to an empty string if a value is not provided. So that's the flow going on there. So if we come back into here, bam, there is our post title. So now we just need to do that for all of the inputs. So post slug, that should allow us to alter the slug if it did not get created to our liking, or if for some reason we changed the title, and we also need to reflect a new slug for that. Post dot description, post dot page title. Forgot to do the question mark up here. Post dot meet description, meta description. There we go. Post dot canonical, post dot body, and post dot video URL. And just like magic, there's everything within our form. So one last thing to change, the submission. So first and foremost, I don't believe by default the what's it called? Method spoofing is, I don't think that's enabled by default. Let me see if I can remember where that is. Is that in app? Yeah. So I'm going to allow method spoofing. Set that to true so that I can do underscore, is it a single underscore? Yeah, underscore method as a query param on the URL to define that it should send up as either a put or a delete on the form. So that's what that's for. So instead of just doing route post store, we could do store or update here, but I'm going to keep these separate because I feel like in the end, once I'm done with everything, the difference between storing and updating is going to be great enough that it deserves a separate endpoint. As for the page, that's going to be pretty much similar for both, so we can use the same page for that. So let's do post. If we have a post, then we're going to want to update. Actually, let's do post.id, be a little bit more specific. So if we have a post ID, studio posts update. Otherwise, go ahead and use store. Now, in addition to this, let's also add on a query string. I've never done it adding a query string like this via the object. So bear with me here for a second. Let's see. Actually, let's clean this up even more. Let's use an internal edge component, or not component, variable. So at set action post.id. No, it's defaulted to store. Trying this out too. I've never tried resetting a edge variable inside of an if, but let's try. So if post ID at set the action, so change the action variable to route. Again, I've never tried this, so I don't know whether or not this will work. So, you never know unless you try, right? So query string, and then I think we want, nope, just one, method equals put. So let's try that out. Let's see what that gets us. All right, and then we'll plop action in there. So give that a save, come back to here, unexpected token. Is this something I got wrong writing it, or is it that it does not expect this? I've never tried the query string set in there, so maybe I got that wrong. So I'm going to try taking that off just to see. Oh, yeah, no, it does need the ID, doesn't it? So ID is post.id. All right, now so it's at least getting in there. Let's define that route. Did I define the action? No. Okay, let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we'll want the response. We'll want the request so that we can validate it. And we'll want the param so that we can get the ID. I think that's it. So we'll do const post equals awaits post find or fail. For right now, we'll just leave all of the extra data off of it, like the images, the authors, and all that, and we'll just update the post. So merge. Oh, we need to validate first. So here we go. Yeah, we'll use the post store validator up until it doesn't become relevant. If it does ever become irrelevant, if it might end up just changing that to be post validator instead. We'll see if it can be used for both. And then we will await. No, post.merge. I don't think that also saves. I think, yeah, no, that doesn't also save. pass in the data, await post.save to save that, and then return response redirect to route the post index page. Okay, so there's a simplistic update. So let's do route.put ID posts controller updates as update. Okay. So now that route should exist. So we can refresh here. And let's check out what the generated route for our action is. Studio post 5. So this is working exactly as I hoped it did. Cool. Let's plop the query string in there. Nope, I believe that goes in as an object. Yeah, something like that. It starts with an underscore. Yeah, I think that's valid. Try it out. So now if we refresh, we should have Studio Post 5 with a query string of method equals put. So now this should send up, it will send up as a post via HTML, but the backend Adonis will use this method spoofing to then change it into a put and use our put route that we have here. So let's test it. So let's try to change something. So we'll put edit on the title, and we'll do it for the description as well. So there we go. So this just isn't rendering right. So this is the title and this is the slug. So the edit did work. And we can go back into the edit form to verify. So cool. Everything's working there so far. What to do next? Well, we can make that a little bit better so that's easier to see. Index. Oh, this dog's starting to growl. Sorry about that. Just gonna flex it. Okay. And then in between all of the data, I'm also going to have the actions over here to the right so that we can edit and we can delete them. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have another TD over here. Spot on. And we also want one for deleting. So we can use method spoofing for this as well. So we can do this as a form. Action equals, or method equals post. Action is, and we don't have this route created yet either, but studio.posts.destroy. And we need the post ID to go up with that as well. Keep. And then here, all that we would need to do is a button type submit, or actually we could put this form off somewhere else and then have the button reference the form, but this works. Button type submit, delete. Yeah, gotta define the route. So let's go make the delete functionality first. So let's see, we're going to need our request, our response, and our params. So that is actually pretty much correct. Good job. So yeah, no, we actually don't need request. We don't need to validate anything. We're just using the ID passed in from the param. However, we are not cascading the deletion of our post authors. So we need to kind of remove that as well prior to deletion. So whenever we get our post, we will do await post dot related authors. Yes. And detach, which will detach all relations for this particular post. So we're good to go ahead and save that. That should do everything that we need it to currently do. And we'll build from there as we go. So route.delete, ID, postcontroller.destroy, destroy, perfect. All right. And now we should be good to go ahead and test it. So refresh this. It's not beautiful, but it's something. So go ahead and click delete, and it should get rid of, well, let's create a new post here. So let's do test delete. Okay, let's save this one off. Again, not beautiful, but it's something. Hit delete, and oh yeah, I forgot the methods spoofing. So let's tack on query string underscore method delete. Okay. So now whenever we hit delete, we should be redirected back. Well, it should delete the record, and then we should be redirected back to this page minus our record. So delete, and there we go. So that's working just fine as well. Let's see, I can immediately tell that the table's not taking up the full width because it's wrapping. So let's go ahead and make it take up the full width. There we go. And change this to be text small. So class equals text extra small. Let's do extra small. And then let's not do space x3 because that adds spacing to the end of it as well. I just want it in between. Let's see. So or maybe it doesn't. Okay. Either way, this works. So this route here, I guess we could step out of Studio real quick and get those routes working as well, at least partially. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. So we have our creating the post working, we have our editing the post working, deleting the post working. We do need to go ahead and do the publish app. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I don't remember why I have publish at user as a column. So I'm going to go take a look, see if I can find that. Being stubborn. I know if I go back far enough, I find my project again. There we go. All right, so let's see what I'm using that for. So app controller studio post controller store data state ID is public, data.publish at diff now seconds is less than 0. Publish at becomes the present time. Oh, here it is. So publish at is date time from ISO, date time at user zone. So I'm resetting the user zone to whatever the user selects as their time zone to UTC. And then resaving it back with their time zone. Okay. Gotcha. So back within our create or edit, I think the one thing that I'm doing is I'm adding a hidden field. So input type equals hidden with the user's time zone as that value. So name would be time zone and the value would be whatever the user's time zone is. So we might need to use JavaScript to populate that. I think that's what I was doing in this project. So I'm going to open this up in another tab. Go take a look real quick. Pretty sure that's what I was doing. Let's see. Studio's within here because it's in inertia. Well, yeah, okay, that makes more sense than everything was in JavaScript here. Post, add or edit. Yeah, maybe I didn't have it in here. Maybe I was probably patching it up with the, yeah, right here. So I was patching it up with the form data. All right. Regardless, we can go ahead and take care of that. Since Adonis isn't aware of what the user's time zone is, we can either make Adonis aware or we can just populate this with the value. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. So we'll add another section to Studio. So do at section as scripts so that it's always down at the bottom in case we need to add anything else before it. So then outside of this section, we can now do another section called scripts. And let's tack in a script here. Just do this in line. It's not going to be much. So document.forms let's give our form a name so that we can access it. Post form dot time zone dot value, and there we go. So that's all that we need to do. So now that should auto populate with whatever the user's time zone is. And then what was I using? I think I was just using the browser's default date and time inputs for the publishing. Let's try that out. I don't know how that's going to appear in this component, but let's try. So let's see. I think it's date is the date type. And name is date. The value would be post.publish at dot date. That sounds wrong. We'll leave that off for right now. We'll come back to it. I need to look at Luxon and see exactly how you probably just two-string with a format. And then this would change the date. I might merge this all into a date time. And then that's date type. So let's see if that even renders. Yeah, it's got some weird padding on the bottom, but yeah, it's there. Okay, and then let's make use of the group actually. So at components input type group at end component, plop that in there, plop it in there again, and I think the time input is just called time. We can take the label off of this. Time, and take the label off of this one as well. And I might need to wrap these, and probably do. So let's do div class equals flex items center. Let's see how that looks. Where'd it go? Okay. So something's going wrong there. All right. Check out the input components type group to see what I'm doing here. So, well, did I give the group a label? Let's first try that, because that should show up. I did not. Let's give the group a label. Publish it. And yep, there's our label. So it's definitely something with the group. Slots.input. So I named the slot. So then what the heck do I have as the default slot? Is there a default slot, or can I change this to the default slot? What is the name of the default slot? Is it main? It is. Oh, I used it for select. Okay, I guess that makes sense. So then, let's see, how do I name a slot? I forget. Is it section? I'm gonna go take a look. I'm not gonna guess. I'm gonna go take a look. Oop. Components, slot. At slot. That makes sense. Okay. So then it would be at slot input at and slot. Increment that, and now we should get our date time inputs. Oh, ew. What do we have going on here? Okay. Bad refresh. So that is funky default styling for it. But all right. Surely that's not the actual default styling, right? No, I overrode it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all right. It's not pretty, but it'll do fine for now. So we go ahead and test this. So if we save this one to be published on, say, the 17th at 3 o'clock p.m., it should at least save as this, because it's going to send up as part of the data. Actually, no, it won't, because we're expecting publish at as a single string. So we can either change it to where we expect the date and the time separate, or I can have a concatenated version as like a hidden input somewhere. I'm going to say let's handle it separate. That'd make things a little bit easier, I think. So we'll have, instead of, I think we can get rid of publish at user and just do that as a time zone. We can mutate the publish at if need be. So publish at date will take as a date. Publish at time. Is there a way to, first, is there a time? I doubt it. It's probably, if there is, it's probably built in with date. Let's go take a look. Let's see, validator. Take a look at the date options. So we can do format. So this, I believe, is the default format for the HTML5 or HTML inputs for the date and the time. So we should maybe be able to do format of this for the date. So format. Oh, shoot. Of that for the date, and then optional format of this for the time. Did that twice. Oops. All right. So I'm not 100% certain whether or not those codes are correct for the default HTML date and time inputs, but we'll try it and see if it comes through. So now we have publish at date, publish at time within our validator. So now we need to go up to here. And prior to, we can either do this as a before save, or we could do it directly in here before the save and before the update. I'm going to go ahead and just console.log out whatever we get for the data first, just to make sure that it comes through and that it's actually correct. So let's do publish at date as publish at date, and publish at time as publish at time. Make sure it comes through. Okay. Okay. So I'll come back into here. Refresh you, change you to the 17th, and you to, let's do 5 p.m., something a little bit further away from the time that it is right now. And save post. Let's take a look at our console log, see what we got. Yeah, so undefined and undefined. So either the format is wrong or something else. I'm going to be stubborn, and instead of going and looking to see what the actual format I need to use is, I'm going to change these to strings. And we'll see what it actually come back as. And we'll just take that off because that's not a valid string option. And go back into here, back into edit. Yeah, we don't need to change anything with it. Just checking to see what it comes through as. And, undefined and undefined still. Hey, Felipe. Yes, this code will be up on GitHub, and the code from the previous stream is also up on GitHub. It's at Jaegerco, and it should be this one right here, Jaeger.co, and it's public, so you should be able to find it. So it could be that these were defaults, that the reason that they didn't come up. It could be I spelled something wrong. It could be that the name isn't right that I have in the form. So let's check the name setting first, I guess. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got date and time. I guess we could use that. Publish at date. Be a little bit more descriptive, I guess. And publish at time. So let's do 17th, go to 5 o'clock again. Try this one more time. So it could be that the format was right. Oh, cannot define publish at date on post model since it's not. Oh yeah, well that makes sense. We have to delete it out before we try to save it. So go into, nope, not there. Go into here. And instead of including it as a portion of our data, we will take data, spread it out, and prior to spreading out the data, we will grab the publish at date and publish at time so that they're no longer a member of our data, so that we're not going to get this error saying that, you know, publish at date's not a member of post. You can't try to make it one. And now instead of console.logging them out like this, we can just do it like this as well. Okay, let's try this one more time. 17th, 5 p.m. Save. Okay, cool. So what did we get? 2021, 11/17, and the time just didn't work. So yeah, I do believe the format that we had on that date validator was correct. Time though, why are you not coming through? I changed the name wrong. Publish at time, so now that should be correct. Publish at time as a string. Yep. Okay. And publish at time. So looks like everything is referencing publish at time. We can I don't remember if all gets data off of the body or not. Let's see. Let's see what sends up. Okay, let's try this one more time. 5 o'clock. Save. See what we got. Oh yeah, cool. So publish at time is going up as null. Interesting. Let's see. Why would you be null? Why would you be null? Just check out the actual input on here to make sure. I mean, based off of how it's rendering, it's definitely a time input. Let's make sure that the name got onto it correctly. Yep. Publish at time. And we're trying to pass it up as a string, so that shouldn't be any issue with the formatting. I wonder if it's something with the model. Let's see, 5 o'clock. Go to the console here. All right, well, you're printing it out here, but I'm not overly familiar with Safari, so I'm gonna go ahead and document dot forms dot what did I name it? Post form. I should just be able to do forms dot post form. Make sure that's something. Nope. Okay. Dot publish at time. All right. Dot value. Yeah, it's an empty string. Huh. Yeah, see, that's the thing that I hate about Chrome too, is it gives you the tree of it. I want the actual properties. Okay. So it's just that we're not getting back the actual value of the input, or the value is not setting. Remember to sign in. I don't have any authentication checks yet. So I just need to remember to sign in. Okay. See, yeah, okay. So it's something with Safari with the reason that those are so massive. They look perfectly fine on Firefox. All right, so let's take a look here. So 5 o'clock p.m. Maybe Safari like shows you the defaults, but it's not actually set. Maybe that's just like a placeholder. I don't know. So document dot forms dot publish at time dot oh yeah, skipped a step. Dot post form dot publish at time dot value. Yeah, there we go. 1700 hours. So I'm going to go back to Safari here. And finish that up. Let's type everything in it. If that is just a placeholder, and that's not like a default value, that is super misleading. Yeah, now it's coming through. So that's just a placeholder. Wow. Like Firefox's placeholder a lot better. It's just dashes. Like, I assumed that that was going to be a default because I didn't set any placeholder on it. But okay. So we can go ahead and actually work with this now that we know what we're getting back. So let's see. So within our validator, publish at date, I'm going to go ahead and undo. We're getting back 1700. So that would be hours, hours, minutes, minutes, no seconds. And I believe the date's right. So we can change these back to dates, test to see whether or not they come through now. So post controller, console.log, we can get rid of, I will leave all in just in case. And give this a save to test and see what we get now. So I didn't need to refresh, but I just did. Set this to sure, and we'll do 5 o'clock p.m. Save. Take a look at our console log and see what we get. All right, so now we get a datetime object. For the time, it defaults to hours 17, minute is 0, so that seems to be working. And for the day, month is 11, day is 18, so that seems to be working. So now we just need to group them together into one date time and plop it onto our data prior to our save. So const publish at equals, and we can either build this out as a string, or I would say let's use one and alter it to make it the other. So publish at date dot set hour is publish at time dot yep hour and minute, and that's giving me red squigglies. Why? Probably because it's optional and it's nullable. Yes. So well, this is nullable too, so we would want to set an overall default. So if so const publish at equals datetime now. I need to import datetime actually. Okay. If publish at date, then we will do publish at dot, or no, equals, because it's immutable. Publish at set. Is there a better way to merge two Luxon dates? I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to go ahead and just stick with this because I know that this will work. And I put this as a const, which is a no-no because I'm changing it. So we'll do let. Why are you red squiggling now? Cannot redeclare block scope to variable. Oh, because it's also defined down here. Okay. And if publish at time, we'll do the same thing. Not pretty, but it'll at least work for right now. So hours, minutes, we do not get any seconds, so we'll take that off. And then last thing to do is data dot publish at equals publish at. Trying to decide whether or not that's going to try to throw an error or not. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and save, try it out, see if it works. We can get rid of this all now. Oops, one too far. There we go. Yep. So publish at's not a member of data. So instead of doing that, we can actually simplify this even further actually by doing dot dot dot, and then after we set the data, set publish at. I don't know why I didn't do that initially. That's a lot cleaner. Okay. So we'll come back into here, try to set the date to the 18th, we'll leave the time empty to verify that, you know, it just sets to whatever now is, which would be for me 11:02 a.m. So we'll go ahead and save. Come back in, and it should now still be the 17th of the, oh, do I not have it populating? I do not. All right, I wasn't sure how it was going to. Okay. Well, we have the formats, so we already know what that is. We can actually populate that. Let's see. On our post, I don't know if it's worth it, but we can do a computed property here. Nope. What am I doing? That's completely wrong. Computed public get publish at date string. For the most part, that's right. I'm going to go ahead and copy the date as it's defined on the validator, though. I have no clue what LL does. All right. And we'll do another one. Again, not sure if this is worth it. Might end up changing it, but publish at time string. Return, publish at to format. Perfect. Is hours the 24-hour clock, or is that the 12? Well, we'll see. It should be the 24 actually, because we console logged stuff out and it went as 17. So it should be okay. Okay, and then we should be able to just use those two to actually set the default value for these. So we do post dot publish at date string, otherwise that, and we do post dot publish at time string, otherwise the flash. So back in here, and perfect. So we can see that we got 11/18/2021 at 11:02 a.m., which was the time that I last saved this. And if we change this to 5 o'clock p.m., now that should save too. Perfect. So that seems to be working. Okay. What else? What else? Did I miss anything? Let's see, we need to find a WYSIWYG editor, which I will do off stream. We need to get images at some point, but I need to add in my environment variables to be able to do that, and I store all of my assets within a single bucket for all projects, so that's not a secret that I want to share. It is a super secret, so I'm going to hold on to that. We could get it to where it just saves locally onto the disk, but that's vastly different from how I need to save it, so we'll skip that for right now. Let's see. We can go ahead and start rendering stuff out, I guess. Let's see. So we have those posts that I accidentally created earlier that have no author. Let's go. Whoops. Go ahead and delete those. Okay. And then, oh, you know what? We could do the states. So there's various states here. If I can find my enum for it. So states. So we have whether it's a draft, whether it's in review, unlisted, public, private, archived, or declined, which I've yet to use, but it's there just in case I need it. So we can set up kind of like a save as, and then allow the user to select between these 5 values here. So to show you what I'm currently doing for that, if we come into here, I've got a publish now button, save as draft, save as unlisted, save as private. So if I save this one as private, you would no longer be able to find this post anywhere on the site. However, since I am logged in and am an administrator, it would still, did I leave it there with me? No, yeah, no, it would still show for me. Unlisted, I believe I have that set to where it would still show everywhere on the site. No, no, it wouldn't show anywhere on the site, but you would still be able to view it. That's what that is. And then draft would be, it would go as a work in progress, so it wouldn't be anywhere. So let's go ahead and set those states up so that we have them ready to test whenever we actually query out outside of our studio. So let's see. How do I want to incorporate that? So I think we'll do another hidden input as state ID. The default value for this will be post.state ID. Otherwise, probably draft. So the other thing that would be good is to provide those states into the update and create page. So let's go ahead and do that. So const states equals, we'll just do state. We'll do it as the actual enum, right? And then const, no, I don't think we need state descriptions at all. So we'll just leave it as states and plop that in there. And then we'll do the same thing for edit. So now on our creator edit, we should be able to do states.draft and have that pre-populate with whatever that state ID is, which actually we have them setting to use the default of 5. So I don't remember if that was a database default. State ID, no, it doesn't have a default. So it must have been something that I temporarily plopped in the controller earlier today. So let's go ahead and test this out with a new post so that we can verify that it actually does show up with the states.draft value. So come in here, create new post. Let's go into inspect. And I don't need all of that. You can shrink. How do I get that back over there? This one? Yeah. All right. And go into our form. And there's our hidden input with a value of 1. Is 1 yes? So that is the state of draft. Perfect. So now I guess we'll keep this pretty similar to how I currently have it, where it's just 4 buttons, and then the user can select between them, and then clicking on a particular button will change. Well, let's think about that for a second. Because if we do it that way, I've done this before. How did I do it? See, so the issue with having the buttons separate is that there'll still need to be submit buttons that kick off this request. I think that's how I did it. I didn't have them as submit buttons. I just had them as buttons that changed that value and then submitted the form afterward. So it would be something like this. So let's see. No, what am I doing? Function save state ID switch the state ID. That is eerily close, yes. It's a little off, but it's all right. So what all states do I have? Let's go ahead and plop those over on the right hand side. So states. Okay, so we have draft right there. Instead of published, see, there is no in review state to be had, so we'll do unlisted. And then instead of, yeah, no, that's fine. Well, hold on a minute. Is there really a purpose to have this if you're providing the state ID, there's no purpose to have that. So you would just do this. I just realized that all of those case statements were going to have the same output. So there we go. So now we just overwrite that value and then, yep, submit the form. So then we have our buttons, which we will place outside of the form as non-submit buttons. So this would be button type equals button. Do onClick, save as states dot public, and this would be the publish button. Okay, and we're going to have something very similar for unlisted, or draft, unlisted, and private. Yeah. So draft, unlisted, and private. Okay. So now that should change the state ID and then kick off the submission of the post form. So we'll save that. All right, we have our unstyled buttons here, looking all fancy. So we can, let's see, create a new test post. And we had the others default to public. So first we'll go ahead and try draft. So we'll save post as the draft, if I can find the button. Save as draft right here. So we'll go ahead and click that. All right, nothing happened. We're using inertia, or no, not inertia, Alpine. So I don't know why I'm not using that here. Definitely could if I can remember how that works. It's changed since I last used it. There's really no need to. What? See if we're getting there. It's been a minute since I've done direct attribute actions. So we're not getting an error, so I guess I'm doing that right. But this probably needs to be different somehow. Oh man. Let's see. I know that's doable. Maybe it's not on click. I don't like W3 schools, but I'm gonna, yeah, see, it should work. They're doing it. I should be able to do it too, yeah. So we got unclick. Maybe it's not called save as. No, it's called save. Well, I like save as better. Let's call that save as. Okay. Test draft. Save as draft. There we go. Now we have test draft there. Let's verify that its state ID is 1. Where's my refresh button? There it is. Where's my state ID? Nope, it came through as 5. Is that because of how I'm setting the state ID temporarily? Or is that because it didn't send up with the correct state ID? Let's take a look. So store state ID public. So, all right, let's leave it as public for right now because we're still testing. So it must not have gone up as a member of data. Either that or if our validation plucked it out, then I'm either not sending it up with the right name or our validation came back as an error. And we went to the index page, so our validation didn't error out. So state ID is just, oh, it's not in there at all. I thought I did it. Oh, no, you got post type ID. All right, so I didn't do state ID, my bad. Let's see, state ID. It will be very similar to post type ID. So this will be enum type optional because we have a default that we're going to set on the back end. Object values state. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now that should work. And we'll leave. I want to change this back to. Well, why are you red now? State ID is specified more than once. Ah, well, look at you. Okay. Well, then we will do this. Whoops. If not data.state ID, then state ID equals. I do want to ultimately use draft for this, but while we test out that we're able to set draft, whoops, that needs to be data.state ID. I'm going to set it to public if it doesn't exist. So now we can just change this to be data. And now that has a red squiggly. So why do you have a red squiggly? State ID are incompatible. So I think that comes back to I didn't use the enum type to describe. Where is state ID? It's number or null. So really, instead of number here, that should be the enum. Let's see if that fixes it. Types of state ID are incompatible. Type string, state, or undefined is not assignable to type state, null, or undefined. Okay, so we have it's nullable. Okay. Well, so the issue is, so I could fix this on my model. What I think putting null or undefined there would probably fix it maybe, or probably need to also handle the string portion of that, which I don't want it to be a string. So, but whoops. Instead of doing that approach, how did I open up my terminal? Has that been open? My bad. I'm instead just going to, really, I don't think that should have been nullable in the first place. It's definitely required because if a post doesn't have a state, I have no clue what to do with it. So that really should be required. So that takes care of one portion of that. I don't know why that's still saying that's undefinable. State or undefined. Oh, because it's Alright, well, I'm going to change the validator regardless because we are definitely sending up some form of a state with it. So I'm going to change that from, well, really that just needs to be a number, doesn't it? Not necessarily an enum. Well, let's see what we got. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. Got type string or state now. So yeah, we need it to be a number, not a string. That's the underlying issue. Is that coming through with how I'm setting it here? I don't think so, because that's definitely a number that I have set. Object.values enum. Yep, there's where it's coming through. String or state. I want that to be number or state. Let's take a look at the validator documentation here. I don't know if there's a way to do that. I feel like I've come across this before, but I don't remember what my solution for it was, or if I had a solution. Whoop, that's the wrong one. Validator. Enum. Where are you? Here you are. Okay. Does that fix it? No. You know, it's underlined because it comes back with the data. All right. Well, now I have it set as a const, which I don't want, and it's no longer a member of my data. All right. Let's go ahead and just keep it simple. So dot number optional. Is there a rule where I can say is in? There's not in. No, I can make that rule. But for right now, just to test and make sure everything is working okay, saving wise. Let's go ahead and just save the state ID as a number. Probably going to run into the same issue with the post type ID, so I'm going to go ahead and just change that to a number right now as well. Okay. And oh no, still red squiggly. Argument of type number is not assignable to a parameter of type string. So number unidentified. Oh, well. All right. Which makes that redundant, which makes that valid. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and test this out. So our draft did not save as a draft, but we can go ahead and edit it and then save as a draft. And it should no, I didn't put that in edit. I just put that in store. Dang it. All right. So then we'll go ahead and delete test draft and we'll recreate it. Test draft, save as draft. Now if we check it out, there we go. Now the state ID is 1. So let's go ahead and apply that to the edit as well. So all that we need to really do is add that check to it. No, that's not needed because it will already have a state ID on it. So if a state ID is not provided, then we don't need to do anything with it. So really edit or update should already be taken care of on that front. So if we edit our test draft to test unlisted and we save as unlisted, now it should be what, 2, 3, 3? All right, so it's 3. Let's verify that that's actually correct. So go find state. All right, it's right over here. I'll just click on unlisted is 3. Yes. So, and then we'll test private, which is 4. Which is working. All right. And then we will test finally our making it public again. So test public as publish, which should now make it 5. All right, so that all seems to be working. So not pretty, but working. Cool. So I think that is where we are going to end it off today. I've got to start my Saturday. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully it actually went okay. I know YouTube told me to check my video resolution because it's 4K, which is not optimal, but it seems like the stream, from what I can tell, went okay. I'll check back. Hopefully it went okay. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I appreciate your support, and have